But actually the first thing we did was go to Japan.
How did that happen?
Well, they decided that they wanted to expand their international footprint, and I was really excited about going to Japan because I had just come out of London and I was really passionate, still am passionate about international. But the product work for going to Japan was not as interesting. It was kind of like, how do we do double byte characters, right?
Bit of a language hurdle.
So I'd say some of the more interesting things that we started were, kind of best of lists and diner reviews. Like, none of this stuff was out there, and diner reviews were also really interesting because restaurants were our clients. And this was when Yelp was first starting out, so restaurants didn't want diner reviews, but diners did. So it forced us from a product perspective to think like, okay, we solve for both, but who do we really solve for? And we had to take a stand, right? We solve for the diner because it's better for the restaurant. And some of the hard decisions there.
Was that your first product manager role?
No, I was also product manager for Ticketmaster.
You were?
In London, yeah.
Okay, so going into, let's just say, OpenTable, you have some years of product manager experience, but totally new market that you're attacking. What are some things early on that you specifically put in place and did as a product manager to really make an immediate impact with that small team?
So I'd say, and I learned this at Ticketmaster, it was forming the relationships with the engineers. We actually didn't have designers. We had a contract designer, but when I walked into OpenTable, it was kind of a waterfall shop, and there was a little bit of like, here's the spec, hand it down. In fact, the original spec of the website is still in a binder that I used to keep on my desk as a reminder. But I think a lot of what I did was really form that kind of team environment with the engineers where we could share the ideas together. So it wasn't as much about that I had that winning idea. It was more that I went in and said, in order to get the winning idea, we need to figure out how we're going to work together.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just mentioned you did not have a full-time designer at the time. I know from talking to you that bringing design to the forefront of OpenTable was one of your big initiatives while you were there. Why did you decide to do that? And what did that transformation look like as you started to implement design thinking?
Sure, so what happened was mobile just came, right? The iPhone came out and then it was like Android, and it sounds crazy, but at the time as a business you didn't actually know what was going to happen with all of this, and so we outsourced a lot of that work. We outsourced our iPhone app, our Android app, our Palm Pilot app.
Yes.
Believe it or not, yes we did. BlackBerry app, yes we did. And they started to take off, and we kind of owned the website with our contractor, but I watched all these experiences just getting fragmented. And we would sit in rooms and talk about our competitors. So I actually did research, and I looked at all the companies we talked about as like people that we admired, and I looked at their design organizations, and I brought it to our CEO, and I said, we have 0. Here's what it looks like. He's like, all right, you get 4.
No kidding.
So the first person I hired, who's still an incredible designer, he's at Facebook now, came from IDEO. And he was a great person to hire because he kind of brought in a very sophisticated level of design thinking and what it should look like. So I'd love to take credit. I just knew what it would be. But I learned what it was by watching it happen. And we grew our design team from 0 to 17 in 1 year. And our product experiences just started singing. And the organization did too. You realize design thinking isn't about, it's a blue button, right? It's about how do you involve your organization in problem solving in a collaborative way that involves the customer. So we really didn't know what that was, and when we started to feel it, and then we saw it, it was just really powerful.
Did that change the development process at all?
Yes, immensely. I think what changed the most was product discovery. It was really easy, and at OpenTable, the table management system for a while wasn't very cloud-based or design-centric, and so the consumer product was really the only thing that we really considered design for. And it was really easy as a diner to be like, oh, I know exactly what to put in there, right? I don't know, how many of you use OpenTable here? Okay, you look like our office, right? Which is like, oh, I know how to make that work because I ate out last night. But you forget that how you eat out in Charleston is different from how you eat out in San Francisco, from New York, from Houston, where I grew up. So I think the biggest thing for us that changed was getting out of the building and understanding how important it was to get out of the building and understanding the processes for getting out of the building and understanding how to bring that back in and not having that